The way you
Yeah.
want to live your life is mastered by your own self.
You know, a long time ago, the devil and the rest of the demons figured out that humanity was onto them. And so they decided that they were going to get into humans a different way. You see, now some people who want those big deals, you know, they'll do the whole crossroads thing. They'll sign the contract and sell their souls. But there are other ways that evil gets into humanity. And it's through legerdemain or trickery, sleight of hand, sleight of mouth. So, whereas before it seemed more direct, you'd be haunted in your dreams, intimidation tactics, fear, or that's the vinegar tactic, right? But then there's a lot of honey too. Promises of wealth and beauty and status and all that, which are closer to the signing your soul, right, in blood on some parchment. And like in the TV show Supernatural, 10 years later, the hounds of hell come to drag you down. But that's not how it is. You see, previously, and for many years I've been tossing this understanding around about hypnosis and the devil, and how that saying goes, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that it doesn't exist. In the same way, those covert hypnotists, the greatest trick they ever pulled is convincing the world that they can't be hypnotized. You see, because it works like a sucker punch. When you're not defending against something, when you're not ready for something because you don't believe there's a threat, then you put up no defenses. Like the Trojan horse, right? You know the story where there was a wooden horse built by those people of Troy to get in to their enemy's stronghold. And it was this giant wooden horse, but all these soldiers, the Trojan soldiers, were hidden inside. And so, which makes it seem questionable why a condom company would name their condoms that, but I don't know. But the enemies then got inside through the Trojan horse, and so that's what a lot of people haven't realized. People are still thinking that this spiritual war and this war against humanity is what they can recall from old school folklore and mythology. But there's been for a long time a completely different kind of warfare. So surreptitious, so good that people have no idea that it's happening, and eagerly welcome in evil spirits. And let me explain before you think, oh gosh, he's just some religious or kook or whatever. I'm not religious at all. Actually, it's only now that I'm somewhat becoming less antagonistic towards organized religion. I actually still sometimes when I hear people talking about thank God this and thank you Jesus, like I actually have a reaction where I feel a little angry, sort of like how you would think that a demon would upon hearing the name of Jesus, right? But it's only because I'm upset that people have been so fooled. Because I see it happening all the time. And people are suffering on earth. People are suffering in their bodies and in their minds, their emotions, because they're fooled by these ideas of good and evil and what it really is. People are following these religions and suffering, rich, poor, everything in the middle, because of a lack of understanding of how the reality of this warfare against humanity is working to cause people to suffer. A lot of the folklore holds true. So, for example, one of the things that people, possession or evil spirits can get into the body when we invite them in, right? That happens much more easily and readily. You don't always have to, but it's a much quicker route. Demons would prefer, evil would prefer that you welcome it in. Just like the folklore about the vampires, right? Where they're not able to get in unless you invite them in. And so this is what many people are doing, but unknowingly, because we've been fooled and deceived about what the evil is. And also, some other parts of the folklore are true. That if you know the names of the evil spirits and the demons and the pain that's getting into you, that you can exorcise it, that you can get rid of it. And it's all very clearly labeled, but people will fight against it. There are a lot of people who are allowing evil into them that are so taken over by demons that if you attempt to provide them with some kind of salvation, they'll attack you. They'll attack you. And I haven't gotten to it yet. I found that I tend to do this, and it's actually okay, more than okay. But I really want to approach this in the best way, and sometimes I don't really know how, except to just come right out and say it. But I feel like the story needs to be built up a little bit, so you can understand, though. What I'm getting at here is that you may be inviting evil spirits and pain and negativity into your life, and gladly doing it every single day without knowing that you are, and then wondering why you're suffering in certain ways. And so one of the ways that a lot of people are doing this, and now you've got to understand that I'm speaking the language of a clinical hypnotist sometimes, and also framing it from that perspective because I have this training. But a lot of people can put it in different terms. So one of the people that actually practices hypnosis that put it in the terms of evil and spirits and maybe even the devil and demons was, I think her name is pronounced Shakuntala or Shakuntala, last name Modi, M-O-D-I, who wrote a book called Remarkable Healings. And in her hypnotherapy sessions, where she helped to supposedly cure people of physical and mental ailments, it was found that many of the people claimed that they, through their sessions, saw these dark bodies and blobs that had identified themselves as being these evil spirits. that were inside of them. And so what I'm talking about here is slightly different, but it has a similarity in that I'm simply labeling these things demons. They very well could be very similar to demons in the way that people classically think of them, because they cause just as much harm, they cause just as much pain and suffering over the long term, and make living on earth really feel like hell. And that is the fact that we human beings have been fooled to invite the vampires, the demons, the evil spirits into our body directly and welcome it. And sometimes just kind of throw our hands up and say, well, we can't beat it, so we're just going to. Like, we're just, the world is so structured in this way that we can't afford to not invite hell into our being. And that is one of the saddest things. But a lot of people have no idea at all. And it's just business as usual, living as usual, even though they're suffering in so many ways. And I call it suffering because people are suffering, and they're suffering, and it's gotten so bad that people are actually making excuses for it. And I'm talking about the epidemic, which is really becoming a pandemic, which really has been for a long time, of pervasive preventable diseases in people's bodies. And I know I've built up to this, and one of the main ways that people are inviting evil into their body is because disease enters through the mouth. Many times disease enters through the mouth. Now that really is metaphorical, allegorical, you choose which one of those, because it doesn't always have to be. It's really the invitation of these things, how we're not protecting. And it goes a little deeper, and I'll have to get into that another time, but I'm setting this up right now. But if you think about it, right, how you're inviting is when you regularly go and buy food and beverages and household cleaning products and bath soaps and all these different things that have disease-causing agents in them. You're inviting that into your body by just putting it on your skin, which is how things get into your bloodstream, which is the same way that food gets into all of your cells, right? And the toxins that come from some of the toxic food, right? Because it goes into your mouth, goes through your esophagus, your stomach, small intestines, large intestines, and the large intestines is greatly responsible for distributing that into your bloodstream, that's how it gets distributed throughout your entire body. And so things that you put on your skin, different lotions, different makeups, different perfumes that may have toxic, harmful agents in them get into your skin and into your bloodstream more directly without the benefit of being able to be filtered or trapped and in your digestive system. And that is the way that we are inviting evil and suffering and pain and death into our bodies every day readily, and we've been tricked because we are just being sucker punched, because we have no defense against it, because we don't believe we should be defending against it, because we just readily accept things because they've been presented to us and offered to us by entities that have convinced us that they are authorities. When I say authority, not like authorities like as in policemen and stuff like that, but authorities as in experts and, people who we should listen to, who should know better, who should be our advisors about things in life. And it's interesting to note here, as I finish off this segment of this, that authority is the first primary hypnotic modality out of 3 that I will regularly be talking about. The first hypnotic modality is known as authority, or one-upsmanship. And of course, there are a couple more. There's number 2 is composed of 3 parts: translogic paradigm and doctrine. And the third one is internal experience and overload. But we're thinking about number 1 here, authority. And it's because of this authority that we trust, right? You know how maybe you might have heard, maybe not, but there's a thing called KLT, know, like, and trust, especially on the internet. But this is an old idea. Old as Madison Avenue advertising, even older than that. But when we know, like, and trust, or are just simply, what a lot of people don't realize, are familiar with some group, entity, organization, manufacturer, king, president, whatever, doctor, supermarket, brand, we just go and buy that stuff. We pay to poison our mind, body, and spirit. So that is the idea that we need to start thinking about right there. Why is there so much suffering in the world, especially among people who are good and spiritual and all that? Because we've been fooled, circumvented. The defense mechanism that we normally have, where we think about where we know what the evil is because it looks like a horned god with sharp teeth and claws, right? And it's ugly and zombie looking and decaying and smells rotten. Nope. Not so much. It's now branded and neatly packaged, colorful, jingles and all, and we go and we pay our money that we slave away to earn in order to curse ourselves, to damn ourselves. I know. That's a lot to think about. But that is something that I've known for a long time, and it disturbs me greatly. But I've been doing something about it for a long time. I've been writing. I've been learning how to hone my skills. I started my website, hypnoathletics.com, years ago, and exercisingyourmind.com a year later, 2006 and 2007. So 18 and 19 years been online and writing various different forms of trying to figure this stuff out. So a lot of it seemed like a lot of radical conspiracy theorist stuff and all of these different things. And now I found a happy medium between the physical and the metaphysical, the natural and the supernatural, the normal and the paranormal. And it's an exciting adventure to be on the forefront. Right now, I'm here exorcising demons in the Hampton Roads area and doing house healing in Virginia Beach, but I get around a little bit. But this is the war. It's an epic war, but it's an ongoing war. Just remember, the greatest trick that the devil or a hypnotist ever pulled was convincing the world that you can't be hypnotized or that it doesn't exist. And that's why we invite these things readily into our bodies, minds, and spirits. You are what you eat. You are what you watch. You are what you listen to. It all becomes what you are. Suffering, feeling in pain, hurting, most likely. And a lot of people hate to hear this, but like Earl Nightingale said in his recording from 1956 called The Strangest Secret, you are exactly where you really want to be, whether you'll admit it or not. And most of us don't want to admit it because it's difficult to tell the truth that for the most part, we are responsible for our own experiences. Just like in the beginning, that track where Floor says, the way you want to live your life is mastered by your own self, couldn't be more true. I'll let that play out a little bit right now. Until next time.
The way you want to live your life is mastered by yourself.